Good afternoon. It's a great pleasure for us to be here talking about what's next, the disruptions coming from digital transformations. And a good data point to start is 52% of the Fortune 500 have disappeared in the last 12 years. We have today a panel of some of the largest companies, and we're going to talk about the effects of these disruptions on those businesses. So let me start. So just to open up, what is different about the fourth industrial revolution? Bartek, do you want to begin?
Good morning, dzień dobry Państwu. There are many things which are different. For example, when you meet anyone today and you will ask how it is, what's going on, you will probably hear the one expression, which is fast. So things are fast. And when you meet in the company, there are not typical meetings which are for 1 hour, 2 hours. This is usually 15 minutes, 20 minutes. So time is going much faster. We are running much faster, and we need to keep up. It has a lot of implications, of course, how the company works internally, for example. Instead of designing things internally, and we did it as Mastercard 50 years ago, it was the innovation. We were able to move money from one place to another through computers, through science. But now, to keep it up, you need to do it also outside. You need to have the ecosystem which is observing what's going on outside because it's so fast. Sometimes you need to acquire, sometimes you need to partner. And that's a big implication for the company because it's not only customer value, but also shareholder value. And at the end, it must work together.
So this concept of the ecosystem, build, buy, or partner, that seems like one of the things that's changed with the fourth industrial revolution. Maybe you could share with that how that affects AstraZeneca.
Well, in the life sciences industry, innovation is our lifeblood. In the last 50 years, we have increased the life expectancy by about 30 years. So it's quite an amazing change that has happened. And as Bartek said, traditionally, the life science industry has been very internally focused, very inward-looking. Innovation was happening internally. There was a lot of protectionism around intellectual property. I think what the fourth industrial revolution brought us is this notion of let's forget about intellectual property. Let's forget about who takes the credit for inventing something. Let's just invent something. Let's cure pancreatic cancer. Let's cure lung cancer. And yes, there is a race. Yes, there is competition. But the primary endpoint, the primary goal is to find something, find a cure for a life-threatening disease. And yes, today I think the statistics for the overall industry is that about probably 50–60% of medicines that come out of pharma companies are actually partnered projects. For AstraZeneca, maybe even more. So we have over 150 projects, and I would say that about 2/3 are partners. So it is about ecosystem, it is about open innovation, it is about really striving to achieve a goal and not necessarily achieve a goal as an individual.
And Paweł, what about the insurance industries? How are you seeing the systemic shift happening around your relationship with your clients?
Yes, I think that what the true impact of the fourth industrial revolution is that we are all witnessing is that we are much more in a mindset today to rather think about what product will the client want in the future. Is that how is he going to behave, and what impact will all those changes have on the way that people live, and what then they will require as new services and new products, which poses a completely different question for us: is what part are we going to play in this new lifestyle that people are going to develop? And basically, insurance companies used to be based on a very simple concept that hadn't changed for a lot of time, which was simply that while individual future events are difficult to forecast, a big number of future events are actually possible to forecast. And currently what we are seeing is a shift, a paradigmatic shift from the rule of big numbers to the rule of precise data. So we will come to a time where insurance companies will be very good at, with all the data in their possession, to foresee individual events on the level of the client. And that has very far-reaching consequences, both for the insurance company, but also for the client himself. Because one part for us, obviously, there will be risks that will disappear. There will be new risks that come out. But while we will be getting much better at knowing which client will actually be inclined to have a risk or not, we will also be in the possibility to shape the behavior of the client, work together with the client in order to prevent the risk that he actually wants to be protected against. So the shift is from a company where you put your money in order to get a certain sum when something bad happens, will be to a partner that lives alongside you and that is there to protect you whenever you enter into a situation where you want to be protected against a certain risk, which is a completely change in the way that we cooperate.
And Zbigniew, you very much partner with your customers as being Poland's largest bank, and you support a lot of enterprises. How do you see that relationship shifting with the fourth industrial revolution? And also, if you can share, how do you see your own industry being disrupted, the financial sector being disrupted by new technologies, fintech, and the whole ecosystem that's emerging around this?
Good morning. Thank you very much for this question. Yesterday, I was asked by one of the most Polish successful entrepreneur, Mr. Krzysztof Domarecki. I don't know whether he's at this auditorium today, but he asked me to be more innovative in his opinion, because he was last year on this first impact event, and he asked me to go from English to Polish during this panel. So now, small alert to translator. I would like to speak Polish in order to be better understandable by the auditorium. Chciałbym troszeczkę wylać kubeł zimnej wody na tą dzisiejszą dyskusję, takie zachłyśnięcie się czwartą rewolucją, bo wydaje mi się, że 100% Polski, może 99% świata, to jest cały czas ten tradycyjny biznes. Nawet proszę sobie wyobrazić, że ta konferencja nie mogłaby się odbyć, gdyby nie stary biznes, który ją sponsoruje, prawda? PKO, finanse, PZU, ubezpieczenia. AstraZeneca to jest cały czas stary biznes, bo to jest opieka zdrowotna, prawda? Healthcare to jest cały czas, tylko modele biznesowe się zmieniają i one się zmieniają, kolega tutaj Bartek Ciołkowski z Mastercarda, na płatności, prawda? I jest tak, że rozmawialiśmy o wyzwaniach w płatnościach i on powiedział, że płatności są nudne, prawda? No i wymyśliłem na niego hasło, które może nie jest oryginalne, bo nawiązuje do słynnej wypowiedzi Marilyn Monroe, prawda, że płatności szczęścia nie dają, dopiero zakupy. Wracając do tej myśli dotyczącej czwartej rewolucji, to co my robimy na świecie, to jest cały czas poszukiwanie dwóch rzeczy z punktu widzenia produktów lub usługi, którą firmy świadczą konsumentom, to żeby te produkty, usługi były albo tańsze, albo lepsze. Na tym polega taka inkrementalna innowacja, chyba że mówimy o kompletnie nowym odkryciu. Nawet tutaj nawiązując do wystąpienia pana Bertranda Piccard, który pokazywał ten swój słynny lot, no to jest odwieczne poszukiwanie perpetuum mobile, można powiedzieć, właśnie czegoś, co będzie pozwalało bez utraty energii korzystać z różnych możliwości tego świata. Także ja bym był ostrożny w poszukiwaniu, że jutro obudzimy się w takim nowym, wspaniałym świecie, gdzie będzie czwarta rewolucja przemysłowa i te wszystkie dotychczasowe biznesy będą nam niepotrzebne. Regarding your questions about financial industry, this is the same. Means that day by day companies worldwide, banks payment systems are looking for the better and better forms of servicing customers, but delivering them what they are looking for means how to pay simple, faster, cheaper, yeah. But this is the sense how they would like to. I'm thinking about customers, how they would like to fulfill their needs. That's all.
Interesting, thank you. Kasia, I'd love to ask a question about the culture for disruption. How do you incentivize a culture where people can come forward with new ideas, where people don't feel frightened to do so, where people can disrupt from inside the company? How are you thinking about that at Discovery Networks?
Well, obviously, like everybody here around this table, we're also kind of thinking, dealing, and strategizes about the new world and what it really brings. And I would say with the media world, this is something very real. This is something happening, and there's so many new. The ecosystem is expanding as we speak every minute in terms of new outlets where people can watch content. And as the industry, I believe that we are at the forefront of disruption, because we are a disruptive company, and Discovery was built on disruption. Discovery came to life where cable was coming to life to disrupt traditional television, to give more choice to television. So we're looking at that specifically. Referring to your question, I feel that there's a huge role in leadership in disruption. Disruption doesn't come out of, us CEOs sitting there and having this great idea. Wow, suddenly we're going to do that, and everybody will follow. It really comes from a debate, discussion, and very often with the discussion which has to happen with the employees, who are very often very new to the company, on the lowest levels, because they're young. They're the ones who live the disruption. They're the ones who are disruptors. They're the ones who want to watch the content, want to watch their favorite shows in the moment where they are, on the tablet, on the smartphone, on the device that they have in their hands, and they know they can navigate us. They can tell us, you know what, this is completely not working for me. I just hate it. I would never watch that. Or that has no relevance. How do you make that happen? That actually for us, we are a global company, we're a big company, I run a very big region. How do I make it happen that I actually hear the people that are sitting in Dubai, in Africa, in Poland, in Germany, and how I hear their voices? And this is a huge challenge. We're working on that all the time, creating forums, creating disputes, and actually also developing our managers. This is probably key here, because most of this disruption, most of this innovation stops at the middle management level. This is where those young people were going to come and say, look, I have this idea. And suddenly there is a fear of putting this idea forward, and you never hear about that. And that's really, I just want to raise that because it's really critical, how you think and how you manage and how you lead the company.
I think that Mrs. Kieli raised very, very important subject issue, which are behind the innovation and culture of thinking ahead, means company culture. Czyli kultura korporacyjna, kultura firmy jest takim elementem, który umożliwia powstawaniu nowych rzeczy, umożliwia popełnianiu błędów. Nie ma rozwoju bez popełniania błędów. Mówię to w takim kontekście, że kultura naszego kraju z różnych powodów jest trochę inna niż taka, która byłaby oczekiwana, jeżeli chodzi o wspieranie nowych rzeczy, innowacji. I to jest jakby bardzo ważne, bo bez popełniania błędów nie ma rozwoju. Cała historia nauki to są różnego rodzaju błędy. Również gdybym odwołał się tutaj do naszego pana Bertranda Piccard, tam było napisane, że ten samolot miał numer 2, prawda? Numer 2 to znaczy, że numer 1 się nie sprawdził. I on miał szansę, żeby ten Solar System numer 2 mógł wyruszyć w drogę. I to jest jakby bardzo ważne, gdy myślimy właśnie o tej kulturze organizacyjnej. Nawet chyba w biznesie jest takie powiedzenie, że company culture eats strategy for the breakfast.
Failure is an important subject, and actually, if you talk about a target within the company, it's very easy to think about a success. And I don't know, market share, you need to increase it by X%. But how many failures you do per year, it's a little bit more to define. So I think there is ongoing debate how to really define within the corporation a failure, because it's really hard to give a target to the failure as such. But I need to refer to one more aspect, which is Marilyn Monroe. And first time, because it will, appear I'm working for a boring business, which I don't think it is, When I first time heard about the Industrial Revolution, actually fourth Industrial Revolution, what I did, I went to Google, that's normal, and I typed in the message, and then I got the information that, yes, this is pretty new thing. It was named in Germany in 2011, and it actually means that the border between machines and people are dismissing, which is a bold statement, and it could have a lot of negative connotations. I don't want to talk about it. I will talk about the positive. So what it means for payments, and actually it means exactly what Marilyn Monroe has said, because it means for us that people are much more focused on convenience, and they don't need to do many things because machines or computers can do it instead of them. So when it comes to payments, when you go to Uber, you simply go, you order Uber, you leave Uber, and it's paid. Everybody heard about Amazon Go. You were able to go to the shop, leave, and it was paid. So at the end, it's not about paying, because it could be a pain. It's about shopping, which is the nice thing. But the whole technology, the whole ecosystem, and the way that consumer can really control it and do it in a secure way is something which we are trying to sort out. And it will be a lot of innovation around. And it will be fun, of course.
Building.
Can I add something? Because I think this is quite important. First of all, obviously, there's a huge follow the consumer message, yes? And there's no way that we're going to stop the consumers. We can only adapt and just follow them and not control or rule or anything like that. It's adaptation. But the second thing, which I think is so important, is the seamless technology. Nobody really cares what is the technology. It has to be seamless. I have to have everything at the touch of my finger, easy, accessible, in one place. And that actually plays to the theme we were talking about at the beginning, which is the ecosystem and partnerships as well. Because that's why it's so important that we actually bring more to one place. Nobody's going to, from my industry, nobody can produce all the content that people want to watch. It's just impossible. You have to come together to provide that. And there are, partnerships that you enter, and you just start cooperating in a very, very different way.
Just to comment maybe on what has been said before, and I can relate to that very strongly, because when we were writing the strategy for PZU, we said that one of our big goals is we want to become one of the most innovative insurance companies in this part of the world. And then the question was, how do we measure whether we have actually achieved our goal? And the one simple measurement that we applied to it is that we will measure it by the quantity and the quality of our client interactions. And that was actually everything we wanted to say about how the insurance sector is going to change in a nutshell. Because what is changing, and that relates also to the question of how clients behave and the seamless technology, is that what is changing is that the insurance technology or insurance sector used to be a low-touch sector, meaning that, and this has been even said today, as an insurance company, you hope to see your client once because, he comes to pay the premium for his insurance, and then you hope he never comes back to collect the damage. And this is exactly what is going to change. The insurance sector will be very close to the client. The client will be able to get protection the minute he simply boards a plane and wants to go somewhere. He would just click and say, I want to be insured. The minute that something happens to him, he will have a partner at his fingerprint or wherever that will accompany him actually through his entire life, through health-related issues, questions related to his personal finance, questions related to his personal well-being. And this is actually what is changing, and this is how we want to measure it.
And that, I think, is a great leeway to what I was thinking when you said about controlling the customer. Because, today we actually make ourselves being controlled almost. Because, I wear this watch which measures the steps I do, how I sleep. There are other people who measure their heart rate, their blood pressure, their glucose level on a constant basis, every minute of every day, okay? And to be honest, this is a great tool, for example, for insurance companies, probably, to almost not control, but incentivize the right behaviors. Because if you look at the 20 or even 30 most common diseases today, which account for about 80% of the healthcare costs, or sick care costs, as I would like to call it, because we are not in the healthcare business, we're in the sick care business. They are accounted for by about 8 behaviors, okay? Smoking, eating habits, sleeping habits, drinking caffeine, etc., etc. If we didn't have smoking, we would not have 85% of lung cancer and probably 60% of other cancers. If people were not eating poorly, we would not have 95% of diabetes cases. And diabetes, by the way, that's about 360 million people around the world, etc., etc. And I think that's the, major shift that will happen in all of our businesses, and that's the empowerment of the consumer. But on the other hand, shifting much more into the lifestyle-related behaviors and driving the appropriate behaviors to ensure that people are healthy and don't come back for the insurance premium, that don't generate the hospitalization cost, that don't have heart attacks, etc., etc. By the way, for us as pharma company, that may mean we will actually not have a business anymore in 25 years, because most of our business is in diabetes and cardiac disease, okay, today. And I would love that we don't have these diseases. On the other hand, I would not love that we don't have the business. So we have to rethink how we do business, how we engage much more with the consumers to find new ways of doing business with new partners, potentially. Because again, maybe we will have a world where we will not have many of the diseases we have today. Maybe we will live in a world where through AI and robotics, we will not have many of the physicians that we have today. Maybe surgeries will be done by robots. Today already many surgeries are done by robots. So it's a complete disruption of healthcare, which again, still today, when you go to an average hospital in Poland or the US, you still don't see. But I would hope that through these types of events, we will stimulate some thinking and actions to actually make it happen.
I think that's a great example of the fourth industrial revolution affecting all of our lives. I love the question, what's the difference between illness and wellness? And it's a beautiful word game. You go from I to we. And if we think about healthcare right now, it's delivered often to the individual as a sick care system when they get sick. Whereas what we need to do is flip to an actual true healthcare system, a well-care system, where we're keeping populations healthy. So this brings us to an important question about who are we leaving behind? What is the effect of the fourth industrial revolution? There's a potential danger of creating an Elysian world, a world of people that have access and a world of people that don't. So I think a good question for you, Paweł, is representing insurance here. Now we're going to have such precise data that you can see who carries greater risks and who doesn't. There's a potential conflict between corporate interests and human interests, or corporate interests and society's interests. How do we manage around this? I think this goes to all of us, how do we manage around the threat that this data poses in terms of in service of what and the cost to society?
This is exactly the point, and this is where the shift actually happens. It is true that, as I said, insurance companies are going to get much, much better at distinguishing between what we call good risk against bad risk. And they will be able to collect not only through your track record, through your history, but also the way that you eat, the way your internet footprint, to predict the probability that you will fall sick or you will engage in dangerous behavior that we wouldn't like you to have. And obviously, insurance companies then will be much better at saying, okay, we don't want this customer, or simply price him in a way that it will be no longer affordable for him. And obviously, why this poses a certain risk, I believe that obviously, the right regulation is needed, but what is even more needed is really to rethink the position of the insurance company going forward. Exactly what has been said is that when the upside of it is that we are able to promote the right kind of behavior that will actually help people to get into the good risk sector. And that's why I believe that going forward, the question an insurance company will ask a client is not so much, who are you? But because, you know, today if you want to have a healthcare insurance, for example, a private one, they will make you fill out a form and you will have to say, okay, I have a heart disease. Ooh, you have a heart disease. And, you know, so the question will much less be, who are you, but how do you behave? How do you live? And that is actually something that will be this big societal win-win situation where insurance companies will help promote good behavior, and this will actually be the inclusive element of all of it.
I think that's we better wrap up. I think to conclude, I love the fact that the Chinese symbol for danger is the same as opportunity. And I think where there's change is opportunity, and really it's to be seen how organizations can create the right culture, the right incentives to really thrive in this fourth industrial revolution, because there will be winners and losers, as we know from the data. So thank you all so much. Thank you very much for listening.